Welcome to my new video, and this is just going to be a fairly short one, just talking about glazing, about getting glass into your models for trains. And I've probably covered this topic before, but it's useful to cover it again. And I've got some examples here, and this is actually my new demonstration route. It's just beginning. It's called St Twinels, and this is St Twinels station, and you can see it's got a excuse me, a glazed overall roof, and which is okay at the moment, but it's not quite satisfactory. It's not quite how I want it, the final finish, to be. And St Twinels is going to be where I display new models and indeed old models, and it's going to be quite an extensive route, but it's not going to be issued. I'm not releasing it. It's purely for my own amusement, and it's purely fictitious. And St Twinels is the name of a tiny hamlet in southwest Pembrokeshire on the Angle Peninsula, and there's going to be a number of other stations along the route which will be named after similar tiny little places in a part of Pembrokeshire which I particularly like. You might notice that one there. That's a new model I'm in the process of working on. It's of Monkton Combe station, which was used for the Phil Thunderbolt. So this is based upon that building. There's a few variations to it, and there's a number of things that I've still got to sort out on it. For example, the roof there, there's a join there which I've got to eliminate. Anyway, this is all about glass and glazing, and you can see here on this signal box, which I think it's a generic one. Yeah, I think it's one that's available on the DLS. It's not my model, it's just a placeholder for where signal boxes are going to go. So glazing, well, let's have a look at that overall roof, and you can see it's got glazing bars, and they're part of the texture, but actually when you look at the figures without any of the intervening glass, and then I'm looking at this character here, and then with the intervening glass, there's not a lot of difference. So this needs to be sort of made more translucent rather than transparent. Transparent would be completely, there'd be no effect of the glass. Translucent, you want a slight effect so that you're looking through glass. And of course opaque would be, well, opaque would be opaque. And the two examples I'm going to use are my model of the Crystal Palace as it was rebuilt at Sydenham. Now this isn't going in my demonstration layout, I'm just using this as an example. And originally when I was planning this one, about, gosh, it must be 14 years ago now, I was going to have all the glass transparent and fill it up with all sorts of things, and I realised that would be ridiculous because it would be so enormous, the model, that Trainz wouldn't even load it, and or if it did load it, it would impact on everything else. So I made them opaque. So although this is meant to be glass, it's opaque, so you can't see through. It's the colour, but it's not the transparency or the translucency of glass. It's simply a hollow building. If we go inside, let's go inside a bit. I think I can do that. You can see there, look, it's just a shell. I see now that I actually made the textures double-sided, so they're shown up on the inside as well. I think my aim was to eventually fill it up with all exhibits and that sort of thing, and people, but you know, it would have been a nightmare for Trainz to create that. So I thought, well, as a scenery item, it's big, and I like them big. Anyway, there we are. That's neither here nor there. That's just showing you glass which isn't transparent or translucent. But the actual examples are here, and these are based on the overall look of the glass house in the Botanic Gardens in Belfast. And I've put a couple of figures there. This is actually the driver of the North Staffs Railway loco that I modelled, and you can see I've stuck one on the outside here, and then there's one on the inside, so you can see the effect of the glass. And it's that glass that we're going to have a look at to see how I created it. And although it seems really quite sort of complex when you first look at making glass, it once you've got the initial knack of doing it, it's very, very good indeed to do it. This one, I think I got as far as, oh yes, this comprises an end piece here and then a spline. So if we go over to splines, I can actually grab the end here and stretch it out or reduce it. And there's various bits to make up, all sorts of size glasshouse with that profile if you want. There's a smaller version. There's the connecting pieces for going from the large to the smaller, that sort of thing. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's the glass we're interested in. So here's another wee fella, and he's in the smaller glass house. And he also, you can see, just looking at them, you can see the difference that the glass makes between there, where there's no glass in front of him, and there, where he's inside. He's in the glass house. Right, okay, so I'm going to now switch over to Gmax and explain how I did that. Okay, well, first of all, here is that Crystal Palace model. This is the Sydenham, how it was rebuilt on Sydenham Hill to produce rename the district Crystal Palace in southeast London. And so this is the Gmax model. Nothing very fancy about that, but I'll show you the glazing panels. I think I called them new panel. I always name my textures rather than using material, just leaving it as material or whatever, because I could never remember which would be which. So this is new panel 1, and let's have a look at it in the material editor. Just double clicked on it. New panel 1. So it comes up, it always comes up with the material number and then the next default number. Don't change anything else on that. I've got mine as two-sided. It's not really necessary. I thought I was going to be modelling the interior. I must admit, when I did try to glaze the inside, the Crystal Palace, and then brought things inside, if they themselves had some glazing, then it produced the most bizarre effects, because it was blowing Trainz's brains trying to have transparency within transparency within transparency. Anyway, maps. Of course, that's the important thing, maps. Let's have a look at it. And it's got a single map, just the diffuse colour. And that's a TGA file, and I would highly recommend that you use TGA files for the diffuse colour maps. And it's set at 100%, so that's fine. But there's nothing set, no setting at all. That's the other one, of course, that we're interested in, opacity. That's not set at all. So I just left that in order to, we've got just a single value because it's not opaque, or rather it is opaque, it has no transparency. So the degree of transparency there is 0. So the degree of opacity is 100%. No, that's the wrong way. Opacity means transparency as well, doesn't it? So anyway, it's not on and there's nothing there. And for glass, you need to have 2 different materials. One for the diffuse colour and one for the opacity. So let's have a look at that. And I've got a, where are we? No, I don't want to save that, thank you. So this is the, let's just make that the main. So this is the end of that glass house with the little man inside it. And you can even see the difference between there and there. So you can see the difference between not looking through any glass, which means you've got 100% visibility, and looking through the glass, which is a slightly lower transparency, translucency. And here I called it Botanic because it's modelled from the Botanic Gardens in Belfast, as I said. And let's have a look at one of the panels, Botanic Panel 1. And immediately you can see that there are 2 files. They've got the same name, but they've got a different extension. One is a TGA extension and the other is a bitmap extension. And this one is turned on 100% and this one is turned on 100%, and I've not changed anything else. That's all it is. So the next thing we need to do is have a look at those 2 in a paint program so that we can see what they look like, and then I'll come back and see if we've changed some of that opacity. Actually, I might as well have a go at changing that opacity now, see if it has any effect. Let's have a go. Let's go down to, well, let's make it really reduction. Let's say 50. Okay, opacity 50, and I can't see much difference here, but I'm sure I would see a difference. Do I need to hit a reset or anything, or just go back to Botanic Panel 1, Maps. No. In fact, it's not a system that I use. I never alter that opacity, so I'm just going to turn it back to 100 and leave it at that. Okay, so here we are in a paint program, Paint Shop Pro, my very venerable but utterly reliable and very familiar paint program, and here are the textures that I've used in the glasshouse. So first of all, Botanic Panel 1. So let's open that, have a look at that. Here it is, 6 times its actual size, and let's open its companion, and you should always regard them as companions in doing glass, and there it is. So this is the one that determines the opacity, and this is the actual texture, the glass. So it's quite a strong green there. I think when I first started doing this, somebody advised me that old glass always had a slight green tinge to it, and this was the shade of green that they recommended. Now that is qualified, we won't see that because it's qualified by this colour here. So that will knock out most of this green, whereas the white will allow through most of this sort of light grey colour around. Okay, so if we look at the here, what we're seeing, and it's this panel up here, I think is probably the one that's being, let's have a look. Oh yes, well that's what's known as a naughty a naughty one, because I had to do quite a bit of bending on things like that. Anyway, I suppose it's one of those, is it? Let's have a look. No, it's actually got that. Well, that shows you the decoration. The BMP file there has got this on, and if we look at its accompanying map, there we are, it's there. So always pair a TGA file for the diffuse color, and then a BMP file for the amount of show through, is the best way I can describe that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find and see if anybody's actually, well, let's just make a piece of mesh in this. Let's just make a box. There we are, and let's cover it, texture it with that Botanic Panel 1, which we've got here. So we'll select that, and then we'll put that on, and here it is. So you can see we're looking right through it, because we can see the grid through it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to alter, in my paint program, I'm going to alter, I'll just select, I'll allow that, normally I would tidy that up a fair bit, but it's just for demonstration. So where are we? Select similar. And what I'm going to do there is I'm going to darken them. See, that's almost gone to black now. Okay, and I'll save that one. And now this one, I'm going to reload it and watch the box here. We'll see if anything happens. Yeah, do you see? It's more transparent, or more translucent, or whatever the word is. It's not showing so much of that green through it. Okay, now if you don't believe me, we'll go back and we'll change it. This is the one to use. Once you set this up, just leave it, that's fine. You're then going to apply this to that within Gmax. So here we'll select our similar stuff, and this time what we'll do is, instead of darkening it, will radically lighten it so it'll let more of this through. So let's have a look. There it is. We just reload it. Did we save it? I can't remember if we saved it now. No, we didn't. See, that would have been a good demonstration. And then back to here, and then watch the box, reload, and see how much darker or much more that green is showing through. Okay, so that would be the way to control that sort of effect. Now, of course, these pieces here, if you wanted them to be wood rather than this sort of painted, I'm sort of claiming it's a sort of painted effect. And what you can do is on this one, select that. Now that's going to be the actual colour of your of what's going to show through. What have we got here? It's a bit red. Yeah, okay, we'll go with that colour. Looks like sort of heavy walnut or something. And I'm simply going to flood fill that. Okay, and save them again. Save this one. Now this is the TGA file, not the BMP file. So when we go back into Gmax, again, watch the box. We need to look at the panel, and it's this one that we then want to reload. There we are. And if you want to knock that one back, you can spend lots and lots of fun doing this. If you wanted to knock that one back, keep the actual colour but knock it back a bit, lighten it, just select its companion BMP file and darken the amount. Take it back. I usually have this left on 70 because that's the most handy. There we are. So let's try that. It's not very much, is it? I think what I might do is just choose another colour. I'll choose a pale grey. Flood fill it. There we go. And save it. Okay, and then back to Gmax. And this time it's the TGA file that we've altered. So there it is, and then what we should get is I think a lighter version of this sort of brown. That bendiness, by the way, is because I don't have texture correction turned on. Let's turn it on. There you are, try. And then we're going to reload. Watch the box. Well, it hasn't made a dramatic difference at all because this is such a strong colour. You'd have to really knock it back to change it. Okay, so that's essentially the way in which glass works. And if you were doing a window, for example, my advice would be to make a box for the glass and then just simply reduce it to an editable poly always. I would then remove all of the polygons except for this one. Let's just turn it round, and this one, and then I'd invert the selection, delete the rest, and that's your inside pane, inside of the window pane, and the outside is over here. All you then need to do, obviously you wouldn't have a box this big, but you can just then take one side of it and move it, whack it right up next to the other, and that's your window pane. And it means you're only using, how many polys is that? Let's just have a look. Two polys, my goodness, that's great. That really does save on the graphics hit in Trainz. And then with centering, and there you go, there's your window panel. And remember to get that more how you want it to be. We'll see if we can go back. There we are on that one, and we'll save that. And on this one, I don't know if we can go back, how far back it'll let us. That's the really dark one. Take us any further back. There we are. That's how it was originally. So I'll save that. So I'll change both of those. Actually, I'll click that off and save it. And back in Gmax, now I'm going to reload this one. You can see the difference straight away, and reload the bitmap, which is allows the transparency through. And there we are. I think that's about it. That's about all I can say about glass. That's the way I've always made it. I discovered eventually, after a lot of trial and error and heartache, but it was worth doing, and it eventually achieved what I wanted it to achieve, and now that's the way I do them all. And when I'm making a glass house, it's always a mix between the design, which I put on the panels, and actual mesh, which is this one shows it's a good effect, because you've got like a skeleton of a mesh, and then these panels with all this little fiddly detail, which if you tried to model them, I mean, it would be, you know, zillions of polys, and Trainz would just give up the ghost, and that would be that. So looking once again, no, we won't look once again because I didn't save it. So that's the way to go with glass. I hope that's been of help. If you've enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. You can always leave a comment, and please do subscribe if you haven't already done so.